somebody who, if I'm not mistaken, is under the Jason Gannett banner as well. And I'm going to ask him real quick when he comes on the line. But let me first introduce our next guest. He is an up-and-coming star in the middleweight division, one of the many fighters out of the great state of Arizona. We're going to talk to him about the WEC coming to Arizona, Zuffa's influence on the sport, and other things. Let's bring him on. A-Train Simpson joins us here on Shambala Sports Radio. A-Train, thank you for joining us. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm actually feeling a lot better. Thanks for having me, guys. And I just want to be clear, I'm no longer under Jason Janae. It's actually pronounced Janae. And I'm actually under Dave Martin out of South Dakota. So that's who Ryan Bader and I and Stevie Dalloway are represented by, Dave Martin.
Dave Martin. Definitely got to get that straight. Thank you for correcting us.
Yeah. It's going to straighten things out. But I do have a comment about that. This whole thing with Carwin, we don't really want to say anything. If you don't mind me talking about this.
No, absolutely.
If you definitely don't want to, start throwing people, start mudslinging or whatever, and start saying things until the truth comes out. But if this is true, and I don't care when he did it, if someone actually used anabolic steroids or performance-enhancing drugs, just like what's his name, the pitcher that just got named right now,
Roger Clemens.
Roger Clemens, it's time to go. And I am adamantly against any type of performance-enhancing drugs, and I don't know anyone who wouldn't be against that, regardless of what point in their career they did that. It's illegal, and it's definitely it taints the sport, and it's just too bad that it's out there and people feel like they have to cheat to do it. And I'm not saying that Shane Carwin did by any means. I mean, he's a stud athlete in his own right, but I just really have a strong opinion regarding anabolic steroids and its use in any sport, cycling or whatever. I think whatever all the allegations that are out there about Armstrong, if he actually did do it and he's been lying to us this whole time, I mean, it's time to go down. But I hope he hasn't. But you just never know.
You just gave us about a month's worth of quotes there, and that's awesome opinion. I mean, that is definitely an awesome opinion. And, believe me when I say, if people are using performance-enhancing drugs in any way in this sport, that's the one thing the MMA doesn't need at this point, because there still is this negative stigma hanging around in the minds of some about this sport. There are some that can't get past the fact that this sport has evolved over the last 20 years, and, you bring steroids into the picture, it adds a whole new wrinkle to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it totally does. And, I remember I had a conversation with a friend at one time, and I was like, if you could take a pill that would guarantee you an Olympic gold medal in wrestling, if you could take this pill, he'd be like, I'd take it in a second. How about you're kidding me? So it would mean nothing to you. He's like, oh, of course it would. I'd have a gold medal around my neck. I'm like, yeah, but you took a pill, so you're a gold medalist. Nothing went into that. How could you even enjoy something like that? And I feel that, that's basically what these performance-enhancing drugs will do for you, any type of cheating, whatever it's HGH or what. And, I'm getting a little older in the sport and would be one of those people that would really benefit from something like this to keep me up with maybe what some of these, the up-and-comers or the younger guys are doing in the sport. But I would not feel right about it. And I come from my dad is a powerlifter. He's 63 years old. He's never ever done steroids or anything, and been a powerlifter. And he bench presses still. He can't squat or anything. But at 63 years old, last week he bench pressed 408 pounds. At 63 years old, and that's drug-free. He won. He was out in Colorado this bench meet. But and and he's told me my whole life. He goes, he'd be benching, and he'd be in the weight room out benching certain guys, like just training, and the next thing you know, they'd show up to a meet and the guy'd out bench him by 100 pounds. He's just like, but he never one time thought about doing it.
Now you hear the some of the guys that got busted, mainly the pro wrestlers.
Right. The Kurt Angles.
Talk about, well, the reason I did it was because I needed to recover from this injury faster. Now, if that is even remotely true, would that be, in your opinion, as with the opinion that you have on the substances, could that be a legitimate use for it?
Yeah, that's a fine line right there. And if it's WWE, that's acting. I could care less what those guys do. Those guys are nuts, and they go through hell anyway. And it's not a sport. But if it's an actual, if you're actually competing, I still have a tough time thinking. There are steroids. I mean, I've taken a steroid injection of but not an anabolic steroid injection. I think that was what one of you guys were talking about earlier. It could, anytime, there's a bunch of different types of steroids, but there are differences in steroids. There are anti-inflammatories, or then there are the actual anabolic steroids, or the performance enhancing. So, that's a very tough subject. I mean, how much can one take to actually heal a joint or heal an injury, as opposed to actually make that injury a huge gain in strength and speed or whatever. So, I don't know the whole science behind that, but I still have a tough time with it, and there's a lot more with the blood doping, all the other stuff going on too, and people are always trying to get that edge. And to me, the edge is hard work. The bottom line, people forget that if you want an edge in a sport, just try to outwork somebody.
Well, I think
Aaron Simpson here on Shambala Sports Radio. Scott, go ahead.
Well, I think with fighting, I completely agree, because you're very rarely, well, in MMA it's a little bit more common, but with boxing and the others, it's rare that you're fighting weekly, outside of the training room. When it comes to the competition where you're getting paid to get in there and lay it on the line, it's anywhere from 3 to 6 months to 9 months, sometimes even a year between fights. Now with baseball, basketball, football, that's a daily and weekly thing, and hockey and stuff like that. And these guys, it was like, oh, well, he's got a sprained toe and he's sitting out on the sideline, he should get his butt back in there, when actually it's a lot more than just that. And so these guys are for shortcuts to get back in. Do you see the gray there? I mean, I'm not accusing it at all.
I do, and I understand, and the sad thing is there's so much money involved in those sports. And I come from a sport of basically amateur wrestling and trying to make a Olympic team where there was no money involved in it, and so it was, to me, one of the purest sports out there, because you just went out there for the love of the sport and trying to win a gold medal. That's the ultimate. And now when you have week in and week out and the gambling going on and the pressures that those pro athletes have on them, there is a gray area, and you can see where someone would want to jump into that. So it's really hard to comment, but I still just have a tough time, with the use of it. I mean, if you get injured, you get injured, and you cope with it like the rest of us have to cope with it. I don't know. That's to me, it's still cheating.
Now, Aaron, with the sport growing in popularity as it has over the last 5 years, and as the sport has become more of a mainstream thing, how much of an urge do you think there is for these top-level fighters to use steroids, right, wrong, or indifferent?
I don't know if there's an urge to, but some people will definitely, and we've had some fighters that have tested positive. I mean, my last loss to Chris Levin, he's clean now. I mean, I hope he's clean now, but he was busted, and there have been some other guys in the past that have been busted and had to, they served their time and hopefully have come back from it. So it's definitely in the sport, and it's in high schools. It's across the board. It's definitely a problem, I think, in the United States for sure, but it's internationally. I mean, I know that there are other countries out there, juicing away also and trying to find an edge, but in MMA, people have to. They either want to be champions, or they want to try to make a lot of money for themselves or their families, and so they're going to try to do what's best for them. But I just hope that we can get a system of drug testing down, maybe like what we had with the USADA on the Olympic level, where there's mandatory testing throughout the year, not just at a certain fight and not just for certain drugs. But that costs a lot of money too. I don't know if that's going to ever happen.
Would you prefer to see something like the IOC or the
USADA
take over all those testings from the commissions?
I do, or a system like that. I mean, I would be for it, and I know it, like I said, it costs money, and it's time consuming, but at the same time, I think you're going to get a pure sport. And I think that some people are going to really suffer because of it, and some people are really going to do a lot better because of it. They're not going to be going out there fighting people that are cheating. And when you're fighting somebody, you're actually, it's a fight, and there's danger involved. And when someone actually cheating with anabolic steroids or whatever, something performance enhancing. It's not fair and it's not cool.
We're talking to A-Train Simpson here on Shambala Sports Radio. Aaron with some strong opinions about steroid use, and I'm with you, Aaron. I think that we see again. I think this sport has come a long way, and I think, like you said, it's in all levels of sports. We see it in high school. I'm sure that you saw it in wrestling. I did wrestling in high school. I mean, where does the line get drawn, and what ways do you think, along with the way you mentioned, do you think we can prevent from these occurrences further happening?
Well, I think the more that these pro athletes do get busted, and it's out there, and they're actually, their records are being taken from them, and they're actually being made, put out there in front of everyone to see. I think that's going to be a huge deterrent. And then, if there is some type of mandatory testing, yearly or throughout the year testing. That's how you're going to crack down on it. And I think we're seeing in other sports. I still think that some sports are being tipped off or something, because there's some unbelievable athletes in some of these other sports, and you look at them, they're juicing. They can't. It's just not human to look like how some of these guys are looking, and it is what it is. But I just hope that we can get to a point where they can somehow get a handle on it. But I think that someone's always going to be looking to do something, the new best thing they can hide from in the ways of science.